So, she's an Oscar winner, an Emmy winner, a Grammy nominee, has had a song hit #1 on the charts, a cookbook author, the face of a couple of iconic American brands. She's a mom. She serves on the board of New York City's own Robin Hood Foundation. And in 2008, after filming the first of now, I think, 3 Iron Man movies, with a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old at home, she started a weekly newsletter called Goop, which has become a growing media business. So please join me in welcoming, like us, a very busy woman, Gwyneth Paltrow.
Thank you.
Okay, this is everybody.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
I guess afternoon now. You lose track in a hotel, right?
Yes.
So I want to know, we are so far away from each other, I feel, but I want to know about the first time you set your fingertips to keyboard and decided to start a weekly newsletter. Like, what was the moment that you decided that was a thing you needed to do with everything going on, and what was your expectation of what was going to happen?
I'm trying to think, I always sort of get the origin of it a little bit muddled up, but essentially I kind of wanted to have a place to organize my stuff, and I also wanted to have an opportunity to answer my own questions, and I think originally I was just gonna put some stuff online and have a private site, and then for my friends, and then I was speaking to some people, and they said, well, you can't have a website because it'll be public, and you have to upload, daily content. And I was like, I still am incapable of doing that. So they suggested that I put it in a newsletter form, and it's weird, even when I look back and I think, like, what was I thinking? Like,
right.
Why? But I think probably, like many of us here, I was also the person in my circle of friends that was like, where do I go to do this? Or what should I make for my boyfriend? And so I kind of, the inception of it was really just for my little community, and I sort of didn't, I kind of stupidly didn't think larger at first when I was first doing it.
So it was a newsletter, an email.
Right, it was an email.
And then you let people subscribe to it? At first it was for people you knew, but then you let people subscribe?
No, then I just said, oh, well, I'll just, do it, make it public. And so it started off being a public thing.
And I think a lot of us have had that moment where you realize it's no longer just your mom and your friends and family. You've got like random people who are reading you. Like, do you remember that when you realize, oh, this is now beyond my circle?
Yeah, because when I first sent it out, then I had a moment where I thought, like, who am I communicating with?
Mm-hmm.
And but I sort of had I had a lot of passion, and I'm very passionate about travel and health and wellness and food, and trying to become a better person. And so I think I was sort of in essence, I was using the website to get closer to myself in a way, to be able to ask questions, to get closer to my community. Yeah.
And so we'll all forgive the expression, but at some point you super leaned in. You hired...
I love that expression.
I know, but we had Cheryl here 2 years ago when it first came out, so it begins to feel like, okay, how many ways can we apply lean in? But I think it applies here
For
because...
Sheryl Sandberg, we'll apply it forever.
We'll apply it everywhere.
Forever and ever.
That's right. But I mean, I was looking deeper into your site. Like, I get your newsletter and I've looked at your site, but I never actually went and looked at your team page. And so in preparation for this, and I just kept clicking because there were more people and more people. And of course you hired Lisa Gersh as your CEO, who's a total media powerhouse. So, I mean, you are super leaning into this being a media company. This is a lot of investment of time and resources and energy in your personal brand. Like, was that a gradual thing that happened, or at some point did you sit down and say, this is a business, I'm going to start like focusing, create a business plan, focus on growth, focus on all of that stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, I think it really kind of came about in a very small way, like me in my kitchen with my girlfriends, like talking about ideas. And then what started to happen was essentially there was a trust that started to get built between myself and my readers, and there was a lot of traction that started to happen. If I recommended something that I found or that I loved, then I was starting to, you know, have this amazing feedback from these businesses saying, this has a real measurable big impact. And I was like, oh wow, that's interesting. And so it was kind of all piece by piece. You know, it was a very slow, very organic process over years. You know, I've been doing it for a really long time, until I started to think, well, I wonder how I would do this if I wanted to turn it into a business, if I wanted to monetize it. Do I want to do that? Would I ever have advertising? Would I ever sell anything? What would I sell? And the process just, you know, it just was a slow evolution. And then at a certain point, my original CEO was in London, and this guy, Seb Bishop, who I met through friends, and he said, I really like what you're doing, and have you thought about making it a business? And I said, I don't really think I have the experience or capacity to do that. And he said, well, I could help you do that. And so then we kind of started to do that, and then I ended up moving to Los Angeles, and then Lisa Gersh came on, and when she came on, she was like, okay, this is what's happening. And I was like, okay. So.
Well, I noticed the term curated commerce on your site now, which I don't think was probably there a while back. What does that mean to you? I think a lot of us have seen the monetization model for online has really changed so much over the last 10 years since we've been doing it, from pure advertising, now branded content, but the whole commerce and curated commerce thing.
Right.
What does that mean in your world, and why is that the chosen differentiator?
Yeah, I think in our world it means, like, look, we are all really busy women. A lot of us are mothers. We're trying to achieve a lot, and I think what I'm looking for is first a funnel. Like, I want to know. There's so much available. There's so much out there. There's so much content. There's so many options. And I think if you have a strong point of view, which, you know, I have a strong point of view and a strong aesthetic, for better or for worse. You might like it, you might not like it, but if you like it, you're going to come to the site and you're going to have a edited down version. And I think that's what I want. You know, I need help in doing that. And my friends, you know, we all kind of, I think, are looking for solutions. We're looking to make good choices. We're looking to make smart choices. We're looking to save time. We're looking to maximize the great moments in our lives with our kids and our friends. And so the idea that, for me, curated commerce really is the point of view. And it's you know, with a broader view of making easier choices. And I think there's just so much out there as a consumer. You know, when I go on a big shopping site, I feel overwhelmed, and I don't necessarily, you know, sometimes I just shut down and I don't convert, you know, to a customer.
Well, that's that famous study that Malcolm Gladwell talked about, I think in Blink, about how when you can choose from 3 jams, everybody buys a jam, but when you have 30 jams to choose from, nobody buys jam, because it's too much jam. So
can you really have too much jam?
I know that's the question. That's a natural question. So when you're curating, and I think this was a question that came up in a whole conversation I had on Facebook, particularly triggered by my friend on Facebook, Danielle Simmons, about who are you curating for? And now that you have such a big team, what is the vision of who the Goop woman is? Are you trying, do you have particular, you know, a lot of brands, for instance, will have different customer models where they like, here's Sally, here's Patricia, and they have whole things they write about who they're curating for. And there's that whole line between aspirational and completely unapproachable.
Right.
How do you think about that? And how do you convey that to a team who is now curating on your behalf, right?
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, I still do a lot, you know, myself. But yeah, I do think that's an interesting point. And, you know, I think when I set out to do it, I really, I think I was sort of looking for things that spoke to me and moved me. We have a really broad range of customers, and we have product across all different price points, and we'll have something for $6, but it will be, you know, the best clean sunscreen that you can buy for $6. And then sometimes, you know, for fun, we'll do something. We won't sell, you know, something crazy, but sometimes we'll have an affiliate link to some like insane, you know, super expensive thing just for fun. And, you know, but we're not necessarily speaking to one person. I think that if I had to say, I think that our woman is, it doesn't really matter what the income is as we've seen in our data, but she's a really engaged, forward-thinking person, and she wants cutting-edge information, and she wants, you know, interesting options. And I think that, you know, originally people thought, oh, it's too expensive, or it's, you know, right, we're not approachable, and it's really not the case. I think some of that sort of preceded us a little bit. And it's easy to pick up one thing and, you know, make a bigger story out of it. But I think, you know, I think more about the woman and what does she, like, how can we help make her life easier? You know, what recipe can we provide her that she can come home from work and make something really good? And, or, you know, if she's looking for a specific vacation, it's just about trying to share an experience. And we have an incredibly broad range of users. So that's something that I find very heartening. And
so from your own data, you feel like you're covering the range in age and income and geography? Yeah. Is it all over the place?
It's all over the place. It's kind of amazing to see, actually.
Well, it's like, it reminds me of the Neiman Marcus catalog always had like normal things, and then they would have the bizarre.
Yeah, they'd have an airplane in there.
Yeah. Which, you know, I put in my cart, but, you know, never got around to buying it. So you brought up something about how much you still do, so I totally want to know.
Okay.
How much do you still do? How much of the content do you review or approve or even write yourself? Like, and how much of your day does it take?
It's my whole day. It's, you know, I basically, I get my kids to school, and then I go into the office, and it's really my focus right now. And you know, I run the editorial team, and I sort of sit above all the creative parts of the brand. So I work very closely with the buyer. I work with brands on collaborations and ideas. I work with, you know, I do all the branding. I do all of the editorial. I have an editorial director, Elise, who's amazing, and I work with her every day, and we're always brainstorming and coming up with things. And yeah, it's like an actual real job.
So if anyone likes and doesn't like something on your site, it all still is really representative of you and your viewpoint.
I mean, we're now really a group of women, and, you know, we all have a voice there. Mm-hmm. And it's like there will be certain pieces of content that didn't originate from me, and I'm like, wow, this is weird. Okay, well, let's, you know, let's put it on. And but I want it to be, I don't want the brand to be inextricably linked to me. You know, in 20 years, my dream is that in 20 years, someone would say to me, like, didn't you once have something to do with that? Or, you know, I would love it to be its own brand. And so I work towards that end.
That was exactly, she read my mind. That's exactly what I was going to ask you next, because there was obviously 3 years ago on this stage, I interviewed Martha Stewart. I don't know how many of you were here for that. And that was pretty awesome. And we also both had very nice shoes. It was also a shoe lover's dream. And you know, she just recently basically sold her company to a company that's just famous for licensing. And you think about other folks in either media or fashion who have ended up selling their names. Pierre Cardin, I think, was the very first famous, like, right, sold his name. And so people were making Pierre Cardin stuff that had nothing to do with him. And so my question is like, right now, I feel like Goop and Gwyneth Paltrow are like, boom, that's it.
Right.
It's all you.
Right.
And you just, well, now I don't know why I asked the question since you just answered it, but that is your dream, to not be inextricably linked.
Yeah, I would really love it to be, a brand that that's a standalone brand.
Cool.
Yeah.
So my next question, and one that I have to say when we throw it out to the community always to say, what do you want to know? And really the number one thing people want to know, well, first I'll preface it by saying, I want to know, do you read your own media, whether it's traditional or social media? Do you read everything people say about you? Do you read only some things? What do you read?
I only read nice things.
Really?
No. No.
That would be a nice way to live, though, wouldn't it?
I know. I don't live with my head buried in the sand, but I also, I really am interested more in feedback than in press. Do you know what I mean? So I'm interested in people who have a point of view, or say have you thought about this, or have you thought about that? And it can come in the form of positive feedback or negative feedback. But so much of the press, I think these days, is so incendiary, and it's about page views, and so much of it is not true, that I tend not to read a lot of, I definitely don't read tabloids or anything like that. And the things that I tend to read don't generally have, a lot about me. But, it's interesting. It's to be someone who's grown up. I mean, I've been in the public eye my whole adult life, really. And it's been a really interesting process and a very bizarre learning curve. And, you really have to find a way to separate the words of people who you respect, whether it's a stranger or not, but there's respectful content, positive or negative, and people who are just in pain and projecting their own shit onto you, So it's been interesting, you really build an internal resource, and you really start to understand who you are and because also what's interesting is if you read something bad about yourself and it stings you, then I've learned that somewhere that's a judgment that I'm holding against myself. And so I will now stop, and I will try to figure that out and work through that and unpack that. If I read something that's just complete nonsense or doesn't resonate with me, then I don't think about it again. But if I'm lying in bed thinking about some comment somewhere that I saw and it hurts, then I know that I'm the one holding that judgment. So it's interesting. Anyway, sorry to bore you on that.
No, that's a little deep there.
Sorry.
I have to think about that myself. So, wow. So speaking of the difference, feedback, the concept of feedback. I mean, you're running a business now, which is an online business, which means you care about what your online readers think.
Yes.
Patricia Patton from Boomer Wisdom said she would ask you about, how do you feel when the online voices are talking about a personal life decision? I mean, how do you draw the line? Some stuff is useful feedback for your business, your work, your community, and some of it's just on your own choices in life, which none of us actually really like that kind of judgment or conversation, right?
Yeah, but that to me, that has very little to do with my business. And, I mean, there have been a few occasions where it's overlapped, or I've actually utilized my site to impart something personal. And I've made the decision to do that so that I can have my voice in an autonomous way and do it. But, and so you are kind of always walking a balance between what's personal and what's my business. And obviously, my business and we're one and the same. But I think, when you think about personal feedback, it really has nothing, that's not going to change. It's a very different system. So I'm looking for feedback in general that's I'm going to be able to take in and then reflect on my business in a positive way. But when it's personal, it's just part of the weather. I just expect that to be part of it, but I kind of know more or less where to put it all.
Do you always know when you publish something that's somewhat personal or you say something, are you aware when you're doing it, this is going to get me some of that crap? And do you find yourself holding back more or less? Are you saying, I'm just going to do it anyway? Or are you saying, fuck it, basically? You know, like what's...
I feel that I do what's right for the content, and sometimes I feel it's important that I'm involved in a personal way, and most often not. You know, there have been, like, I can think of one occasion where I thought, you know what, I'm not going to publish this picture because I can't deal with the shit storm that I'm in a creative I do. But most of the time, you know, I think one of the nice things about us at Goop is that, like, we're a little bit brave in that way. It's like, okay, we know we're going to sometimes write something that's going to set off a discussion, but we want to do it, you know, and we're not afraid to do that. And it was interesting. That's something that Lisa Gersh said to me when she told me that she wanted to come on board, which was that she was like, I want to be somewhere brave. And so I thought that was a really nice, you know, a nice way to frame it, and it was very supportive.
That is very nice. I like that. So you mentioned growing up in or your whole adult life being in the public eye, but even before then you were a child of entertainment. I actually want to stop and tell you a little story that Melissa, are you here? Yeah. Okay, so Melissa told me this story, and I have to tell you, her mom somehow at one point heard your dad say that he didn't let you go to Europe, and that one shouldn't go to Paris, that was at Paris, until you went with someone who truly loved you, and it didn't have to be sexual or romantic love, it could be, you know, your dad. And so her mom, all her life, like, didn't let her go to Paris until she went with her now husband.
That is so nice. Yes, my father, when I was 10 years old, my mother was doing a television movie in London, and we all went to visit her, and then my dad took me alone to Paris for the weekend. I was 10, and you guys are jerks. You're gonna make me cry when I tell the story. Anyway, we went to Paris, and we stayed at this beautiful hotel, and he let me order whatever I wanted. I had French fries for breakfast, and I had a Coke, and, you know, he took me to the Pompidou Center, and we saw the Mona Lisa and all that stuff. And on the way back to London, he said, do you know why I took you? And it was just a special trip for you and I. And I said, no. And he said, because I wanted you to see Paris for the first time with a man who will always love you no matter what.
That's
so nice.
So sweet.
I know. And then the fucker had to die on me.
How dare he?
Oh, well.
So that's a great story. Melissa, thank you for sharing it.
No, but thank you. That was nice.
That made me cry a little bit. All right, but originally I was going to bring up growing up in the entertainment family, you know, very, a lot of attention. Your kids now, obviously, same situation.
Yeah.
A lot of people in this room have kids who, and especially as the kids start to get older, start to struggle with how much they've been sharing about the kids, that in their own way we're putting kids in the public eye.
Right.
And so as someone who grew up like that, what was the best thing about it, and what was the biggest challenge about it?
I mean, when I grew up, it was a different time. I mean, my mother is an incredible actress and very well respected, but
She's going to get nominated for an Oscar this year. That's
yes,
what I hear.
That's
what I hear.
I hope so.
I know.
We're all hoping that happens. But, you know, she wasn't like a superstar, like, like if you look at Demi Moore and, you know, like a superstar like that raising kids. And my mother was, and there was no paparazzi, like it was just very different. It wasn't like it is in this day and age. And I think I just grew up and I had a lot of reverence for what she did. And, you know, I grew up watching her rehearse plays and being so empowered, and, you know, that incredible femininity that she had, and that power in her femininity. And so I wanted to do that, and I didn't really think through that all the public part would happen or could happen. And I've been fortunate in many, many, many ways, and there are also things about it that are, you know, challenging. And I think when you have children in the public eye, and especially where there's so much media and social media, it's hard to find the balance. And at the end of the day, it's like, I'm a mom, and if they do something like super cute, I want to post it, but at the same time, you're like, I mean, I want my life to, I want people to, if you're on social media, for example, you're engaging, and it's
Right.
like, this is my life, but you also want to protect their, I mean, I don't think they have a great shot at anonymity at this point, but but they're great kids, and they're just, they're on a good track, and you want to kind of keep them with a good head on their shoulders, and some of that stuff can mess up the trajectory a little bit. So I think it's a difficult balance.
So Karen Ballum from Sassy Monkey wanted to know, now that your kids are approaching tweendom,
Yes.
and that seems to come earlier and earlier, what boundaries are you going to set about them having their own devices or social media?
Oh, God.
Or have you already? Are they already?
They have iPads, and my daughter's furious that I haven't gotten her a phone yet, so we're in a phone.
How old is she?
She's 11.
How many of you
Right,
have 11-year-olds?
I don't want to get her a phone.
It's
Should I? It's so young. She's like, this friend has one, and this friend has one. I'm like, you're 11. So anyway, we're in
If your
discussion.
friend jumped off the Empire State Building.
I know, but yeah. Anyway, so it's a discussion. She has a private Instagram account, and I don't particularly love it, but I don't know. This is the world we're in. So I also don't want to say you can't do this, and I don't want to create a covetousness around all this that she's not allowed to do. But I explained to them, like, some people in the world are creepy, and like, you got to be a little careful, and obviously the internet and internet safety is a huge thing, and for any parent, it completely freaks me out.
Does it?
Yeah, it does. It really does. I think there's an aspect of it that's really dangerous, but I think you try to deal with it as you can. It's a conversation that I have a lot with my friends who are moms, but hopefully I can stave it off for a little while longer.
Right. I mean, so recently, of course, you're either are gone through or have gone through a divorce, which is a hard thing with kids no matter what, and now it's in the public eye. There's a lot of commentary. Are your kids aware of that? I mean, can you protect them from that?
I don't know how much they're aware of. I mean, I think that, one of the things that I said to them originally when we were separating is, I said, like, that Daddy and I are really famous, and there's going to be a lot of stuff out there, and I can't control what you're going to see and what you're not going to see and what your friends are going to say or ask you or whatever, but you know what it is to be here in this house. Like, you know what's real, you know how much we love you, we love each other, and I think they understand that there's a difference between the outside world and the inside world.
I don't know if everyone here would agree. I feel like in our community, I've seen a lot of our community going through divorce in the last year or two. Just, and maybe it's natural because this is now our 11th year, and relationships change, and so it's a natural part of that. We were all much younger then, and what do you try to use or as a tool, or how do you personally hold on to being able to co-parent through a divorce? I think that's just such a struggle that you see out there in so many different situations. What makes it work?
I'm very, very lucky in that I have a partner who is willing to do it with me in a really collaborative way, and I'm really for Chris, and he's really for me, and our children are our priority. And I think, unfortunately, even though we couldn't stay in a romantic relationship, our values are very much around the importance of family and the importance of those relationships, and I'm lucky that we're aligned in that way. And it's been hard, and like, we've gone through really difficult times with it, but we've always said these children are our priority, and that means what that really means is, even though today you hate me and you never want to see me again, like, we're going to brunch because it's Sunday and that's what we're due.
Wow.
Like, that's what's happening. Like, the children are our commitment, and thank you. I mean, it's not, it's definitely imperfect, but it gets easier with time, and we're really good friends. I really like him. He's great, and he's a great dad, and so I feel lucky that we've both along the way been able to really put down our own stuff while we're together with the family, and that we make it a priority to be together, and so that the transition for the children wasn't, as brutal as it could be. And everybody does it in their own way, and it's so hard, and I would never judge anyone for doing it anyway. Just for us, we thought if we could maintain the family, even though we're changing shape a bit, that would be our ideal scene, and so that's what we're trying to do.
Wow, that's well, challenging. I mean, that's
yeah, it is.
I'm telling you something you know. Okay, so changing gears, I'm a little bit of a Gleek, so I just had to ask you. I loved you on Glee. You won an Emmy for that.
Thanks.
And I know you had done a little singing. You had your hit with Huey Lewis and Country Strong. I can't remember if that was before or after Glee, but so you definitely had done singing, but Glee was a whole lot of people finding out that you had this. I feel like it was a whole lot more Gwyneth singing, right? And it looked like so much fun. So I just have a couple geeky questions. So was it fun on set? Was it as fun as it looked to just be that character and hang out and sing CeeLo and all that stuff?
It was really incredible, and it was it was like a dream job for me at the time, and I was able to go to Los Angeles with the kids, and that stuff is so fun. It's like dancing and singing, and it was great. It was a great experience.
So, and this is a technical question. So I know that later you probably overdubbed all the vocals, but did you sing them live while you were taping? Were you just singing live?
So what you do is you would go into the recording studio and sing the track, and then they would play your finished track, and you would sing to the track. Yeah. So you kind of have to sing so that it looks like you're singing.
Right. That was my question, because I know.
But it's not live. No, I was in the Glee concert movie or something like that and I sang live on that, but not on the show.
What was the favorite number that you did on Glee?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, they were all kind of fun and different. I mean, the CeeLo one was the one that got the most, know.
I liked Landslide.
Thank you. Well,
Landslide.
I love country music.
One of the best songs ever.
That's I love that Dixie Chicks version of it.
Yes, and the original Stevie Nicks.
Yes, of course.
Cool, thanks. So we're down to our last minutes, and I do want to talk about what's next. Like, okay, this is my words, not yours, but I read somewhere that you said something approximating that you choose some film roles because of, they're good for the livelihood, they're bigger budget films, and some that are really more art films or indie films that, are not expected to have a big budget.
Right.
When I think about Goop and your film work, is your ultimate dream that someday Goop allows you to do more art films? Is it that the films help you spend so much time on Goop, the big films help you spend so much time on Goop, or do you really think of them as separately? It's like two separate trajectories.
I don't know, the film world has changed so much. When I was in my 20s, before I sort of paused to have kids and stuff, there were bigger budget movies that were adult movies. I mean, not like adult movies, but...
Right. Grown-up movies.
Sorry, you guys, you know what I mean.
So now we know that Gwyneth's big dream is to be in a big budget adult movie. Wow. Okay, you didn't say that.
Oh my God, a new revenue stream. But it's, over time, it's really become, there's like teensy movies now, and then there's huge movies, and I don't know, I feel, I'm so lucky that I got to even ever be in a movie, like in my life. Sometimes I'm like, I can't believe I was in a movie, but, and I think going forward, my life has sort of had all these different chapters,
right.
And I think right now I'm really focused on my business and building it, and I would, if something came up that was extraordinary and really moved me from an artistic standpoint, I would probably go do it. I mean, I would love to get back on stage. I haven't done a play in a long time, and I would love to do that, and I will, but I think just for right now, it's like if you take, someone else's money, you're like, holy shit, I really need to, like, I'm responsible for something here, and so I think for right now, I'm gonna, do that. But I would do, I would do a tiny movie, I would do a big movie, as long as I felt inspired by what the material was.
So we have a last question from a community member, Jen Lemon, who said, wanted to know, what's an untapped market in your opinion? We're all of us online, we're all trying to figure out a new niche, some new way to differentiate ourselves. Where do you think there's room for growth for specifically online entrepreneurs that maybe we're not taking full advantage of yet?
Wow, that's a good point. I mean, I really do think that people are looking for that voice. Like if you have a specific voice, if you have a really strong point of view, I think people gravitate towards that. They want to see things through a filter. We're seeing a lot that, in our business, certainly there's a lot of movement in the food and wellness, and, there's a lot of leaning into that. But I think that there's white space everywhere. It's just, the more that you know who you are and what you're doing, I think the more that white space gets revealed for that particular person,
Cool. So what is very next for Goop? Like, what's the next thing you're trying to figure out right now?
Well, we are working on launching organic skincare in 2016, which is really, really exciting. I'm so thrilled about it, and I'm working with this amazing company in San Francisco called Juice Beauty. They've been in the space for 10 years, and they are really well funded. They have an amazing R&D department, so I've been able to go and work with them on creating exactly what I like, my dream products. And I think that clean skincare is a big thing for us. I think I personally think that in the next 10 or so years, people are going to get very focused the way they did with food on, we absorb 80% of what we put on. So, when you start to really break down what's in it, there's some worrying things that we let slip into our products. And, my team's really passionate about clean beauty. And so to be able to develop an organic line is a really, really exciting
Cool. Skincare, makeup too, or skincare?
I'm actually working with Juice Beauty on their makeup line, so I'm kind of, from a creative standpoint, I've worked very, very closely with them in developing colors, and it's really incredible. They are making the most beautiful makeup, and it's completely safe, completely organic, and it's not sort of like, health food store, like it's proper red carpet makeup. So it's exciting. It's very exciting.
High definition.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming and joining us
today.
Thank you
all for having me. Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure. Please join me in welcoming Gwyneth Paltrow, or thanking Gwyneth Paltrow.
I'm stuck to the chair. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for having me. Thank you.